I just want to pay homage. I just want to honor and respect these three people, because without them, there would not be a Patrice Washington. There wouldn't be this version of me. At whatever season of my life you met me in, these three people have had such great impact on me.
I'm Patrice Washington, and this is the Redefining Wealth podcast, where authenticity leads to alignment and abundance. Join us each week as we peel back the layers on what wealth truly means and dive into conversations that inspire, connect, and empower you to live your richest life. Get ready to challenge the status quo. It's time to redefine wealth for yourself.
I really didn't know that this month would go the way that it has. The last time you guys heard from me, I was sharing that our theme for this month is abundance is yours. And I wanted to share the ways that I incorporate abundance in each pillar. And I sat down with the intention of, well, just, you already kind of wrote out your ideas. Just go ahead and record it. And the next thought that I had was, that is so disingenuous. It is so 2020, Patrice. The one who would say purpose is not postponed, no matter what is happening around you. And while the sentiment that I felt in that season was so real and so authentic for me, how I have evolved over these last 4 years or so is as someone who is just willing to feel their feelings, and as someone who has a business and a brand that is based on them as a person. It would be so not authentic to push through to share that content when my heart is heavy. And my heart is heavy because I have experienced 3 deaths of people who meant a lot to me in 3 months. And this last one, so completely unexpected. And I found out about it 12 minutes before I was scheduled to teach Pillar Mastery. And that would be 4 hours before my flight to Scaling Joy Retreat. And so while I was able to fully be present, as much as I could be present at the Scaling Joy Retreat and have just a phenomenal time with 12 amazing current clients and past clients who joined me for 3 days and 3 nights of radical honesty and what it looks like to redefine wealth authentically, and being vulnerable and laughing, crying, dancing, getting to surprise them with so many gifts. And I mean, it was just incredible. I'm so grateful to have such a beautiful community. I mean, these ladies were so amazing. At our closing dinner, they gave gifts and thank yous to our private chef and the event planner and my team. It was just so good. It was so amazing. If you ever want to come to Scaling Joy Retreat, please, I'm going to link to the survey for this episode because it'll help us plan for next year. But it was so beautiful. And the thing that I think it really illuminated for me is why it's so important to be amongst women where you can take the mask off, you can let your hair down, you can take that cape off and just be honest about what's working and what's not working, and be supported so that you could get the plan and the guts to go do something about it. Because I know if 2 out of the 3 people that I'm going to share with you about in just a moment were with us at that retreat, they are women who helped raise me. They are women that I respect so much. I know that if they heard some of the stories and met my clients, they would say, girl, I tolerated a lot, so you don't have to. I lived through so much so that you could do something different. They would be encouraging us as women in our 30s, 40s, 50s, one of our clients in her 20s, they would be saying, no, go do something different. Do what you love. Do what matters. Do what feels good. They would be saying, feel your feelings. It's okay to feel your feelings. And so I couldn't sit down and just go on business as usual. I don't believe in business as usual anymore. I've lived the life of a machine. Money Maven was a machine. There were times that I was grieving and I got on stage and I got on the mic and I got on television and I did the things. And to be honest, today, if I had to get on stage, if I had to get on television, then I would absolutely still show up and do that. However, at this moment, that's not what's required. I believe that the people who are assigned to me are okay with vulnerability and with honesty and authenticity, because Patrice Washington is a person. I'm a human being entitled to my process. And even when people will say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't skip a week. If you skip a week of your podcast, then people are going to forget about you. They don't come back. Patrice Washington just is not a slave to the algorithm anymore. I'm not a slave to what I think y'all think about what I'm doing. Like, I just can't live for that. I'm okay if I'm not the hottest podcaster or the most popular podcaster, as long as I still create a space where I can speak my truth and be myself, because that's what feels good for me. Someone said to me when I shared with them about this last death recently, it was actually as I was on the way to the airport, they said, I mean, you could take a day or two, but then you just have to get over that shit because death is to be expected. You could just take a day or two. When people have impacted your life in such a grave way, I don't believe, at least for me, that there's any such thing as a day or two. Yes, we are all expected to die, but that doesn't make us any more equipped when it happens, especially when things happen suddenly. Yes, we expect to die, but the time that people die always feels so unexpected. And yes, I am grateful for the good times. I can think of the good times and still grieve that I'll never speak to them again. I can be grateful for what they brought to my life and still grieve and regret that I didn't stop by and say hi, even though I thought about it when I was in their city. I can appreciate them for what they added to my life and not force myself to just keep pushing through because it's business as usual. So let me just use this episode. As I've said, for many years, the podcast has been like a public diary almost. And I just want to pay homage. I just want to honor and respect these three people, because without them, there would not be a Patrice Washington. There wouldn't be this version of me. At whatever season of my life you met me in, these three people have had such great impact on me. April 1st, I woke up from a dream. And the dream was me being in LA, going from one significant place to another and seeing a lot of commotion, ambulance, police tape, all this stuff. But I could never get close enough to see what was happening, like who was hurt, what happened. I couldn't hear any of the murmurings of the onlookers, but I just knew it wasn't good. And so I was in my childhood home. And then I was at my high school. I was at one of the places I lived while I was married in Beverly Hills. And then I was at another place in South Pasadena. I was at USC. There were just all these significant landmarks and constant commotion, whether I was walking or driving by. And I woke up from that dream. And within, I don't think it was 30 seconds, my spirit said, Google, insert my friend's name. Hadn't thought about him, hadn't talked to him, nothing. Said, Google his name. And I Googled the name and my heart dropped. Because 7 days before, he had been brutally killed in Los Angeles. And all of a sudden, the dream made sense. He was never in the dream, but it made sense. This is someone who's been my friend for the last maybe 5 years. Someone that I would have very deep conversation with about what I now call awakening. It changed the framework for redefining wealth when I started to introduce the new continuum for redefining wealth. The fact that you can't redefine wealth unless you first arise from slumber. You have to have an awakening. That's usually the thing that causes people to want to change. And then when you want to change, the important thing is that you make changes that are authentic to you, that are real for you, that are what you truly need, want, and desire. Then, if you don't go out and actually do the thing, you're frustrated, which is why the third part in our continuum is now actualizing. So awakening, redefining, and actualizing were actually birthed from conversation after conversation, from book suggestions, from just jam sessions. You know, you just have those people where you can say one thing and then they're like, well, what about this? And what about that? And well, I was thinking this. That was my friend. So instrumental in how redefining wealth has matured over these years. And I didn't get to say bye. I didn't get to say anything. And we don't know a lot of people in common. So no one told me. I wouldn't have heard anything. It literally was the dream that made my spirit say, Google him. Not call him, Google him. And that's how I found out. So you continue on. And that's April. In May, I get the call that my godmother is not doing well. She was diagnosed with leukemia and nobody told me. I'm not sure how many people she had actually told. It sounds like when I went to the funeral in New York week before last, it sounds like more people knew for much longer, but I didn't know. So by the time I heard that her health was declining, I called and she was disoriented. And I mentioned something and she just snapped right back. And my uncle who was with her said, do you know who that is? And she said, da Patsy. Of course, I'm Belizean. Many of you guys know that. And this is my godmother, who's the only person who called me Patsy Gal. And she was so supportive of me my entire life. I remember very distinct memories of her when I was a child, like a small child. And I remember feeling so loved, so protected, so cherished. Like this woman loved me. She never drove, but she would have people come pick me up to bring me to her house, or she would get me on the bus. She just loved me, loved me, loved me, loved me. I can recall all throughout the years, every time that I have been on television or, done something, she is the person who would gather folks around and say, look pa me baby, look pa me godata. I actually met someone once who was like, I think I met like your aunt or your godmother or something. She was so proud of you. She would just talk to people randomly at the bus stop. She was just one of those people. And she moved away and went to New York when I was maybe middle school. But whenever she came to LA, I would always go see her. She would visit with my mom. And I would drive her back to whoever's home she was staying with at the time. But love her, love her, love her. My earliest memories of being really, really loved and taken care of were with her. When I talk about growing up with people in my family that called me ugly or told me that I was not the pretty one or made me feel less than. My Gotti was always such a safe space for me. It was so hard when she moved away because I didn't have anywhere to run away to. She saved me in so many ways when I was little. She was such a safe space. Even when my cousin died, who I referred to as my cousin, it was her adopted daughter. I write about this in Redefine Wealth for Yourself. When I was about 21, 22 years old, she died of a heart attack at maybe 28, 29. She was the love of my Gotti's life, truly. When she died, the realization that you could die young set in. And it was one of the things that saved me from being in a work environment I absolutely hated. A work environment that would cause me to cry by the time I saw the freeway exit. When the sign started saying that my exit was about 3 miles away, the tears would start to well up. And by the time I hit the exit, I was in a full-blown bawl. I used to have to call my mom sometimes or call my grandmother and ask them to pray for me because I hated that work environment so much. And when my cousin died, my godmother's daughter, it was the wake-up call that tomorrow wasn't promised to me even if I was young. It was the thing that had me go out on my own and launch my first real estate and mortgage brokerage. It was the catalyst for me trusting myself and believing that I could work it out no matter what. Even if I had to go figure it out, get a job, do something different. Being in a space that just did not serve me was not for me. That language is not new to me in this season. That language about not staying in a place that didn't serve me began for me in my early 20s. And so, my Gotti, just love her. I love her. I'm so grateful for the time that I got to have with her. I don't think that my parents could have chosen anyone better. She was married to my uncle for 60 years. No matter what she experienced, she was one of the most loving people you would ever meet in your life. And that was evident at her homegoing service. I'm still processing that because it's bringing up a lot from my childhood. I didn't realize how much I talked to my therapist about it the Monday after her funeral. I went to New York. I flew up for the day, got back, had therapy Monday, and talked to my therapist about how it's making me reflect on my childhood. And I talked so much about not feeling loved for a lot of pieces of that. But when I think about when I did feel loved, it was her. It was her and another aunt that I have that used to tag team with me, tag team for my mom to take care of me. So I was processing that. And then Wednesday, 12 minutes before I'm supposed to teach Pillar Mastery and hours before I'm scheduled to leave for Scaling Joy retreat, I get a text message from one of my best childhood friends. We had just met up when I was in LA in March. We had dinner. We got to laugh and talk and catch up and all the things. And I said to her, "Oh, every time I come, I keep saying I need to go visit your mom." The last few times I've seen her, I happened to run into her and it was quick, but I didn't get to really sit with her. I got to go visit your mom. She's like, "Well, next time you come for the summer, what weeks can you come? I'm going to come for the summer and let's just plan to all hang out." I'm like, "Yes, bet, definitely." And then Wednesday, I get a text from her that just says, "Can you call me?" It was just the way the text, I don't even know if those are the exact words, but it was something that just seemed off. And I tried to call her back as soon as I saw it, didn't answer. Called a few times, didn't answer. Now I'm getting worried, but she's a mom and a wife. So, I'm like, this could be about anything. Definitely not thinking that she's going to call me back and say, Mama died. They found her unresponsive yesterday. That hit so hard because these are the people who I would spend so many nights with. I would go on vacations with. We traveled. She's been my friend since I was 12, going maybe 13 years old. The person who would pick me up, drop me off, take me to things, like just such a huge figure in my life. Even boys I dated in college, everyone knew who she was and what she meant to me. I modeled my parenting after her. I literally have the relationship today that I have with Reagan because of the relationship I saw my best friend have with her mom. The way that she could be so open, that she could talk about anything. I mean, we learned how to kiss from this woman's instructions, okay? You could talk about anything, have the most fun, so young at heart. Even to look at her at 70 years old today, you would think she was not a day over 50, 55 at the most. Still young at heart, still active, still taking great care of herself, still just being a phenomenal grandmother to her now. I think it's 4 grandchildren. My friend has 2 and her other brother has 2. So being a phenomenal grandmother, like the type of grandmother that'll roll on the floor with you, the type of grandmother I envision myself to be. I can't tell you how many times I've said to Reagan, you remind me of my friend, and I remind myself of her mother. Like that was my dream in middle school and high school and college, is I just want to be this kind of mom. I want to be available to go to my kids' sports. I want to be flexible enough for them to feel comfortable talking to me about anything. I want to travel the world with my children. Hence my trip, even just recently in December, to Spain and to France and to England, like with Reagan, all of those things. She was the blueprint. She was the model for me. I love her so much. She modeled so many good things for me. And I know that I wouldn't be the mother that I am without having been at her house every day that I could be, spending the night, every weekend that I could, hanging out at every moment that I could. I was there so much, man, before I had a car. But when I got a car, I lived there. I lived there my senior year in high school and then in college. Like, it's so wild that in less than 90 days, these blows, these back-to-back blows of people who have been so significant. I'm not going to go on business as usual. I'm going to pick back up the theme of abundance is yours in July. And I'm going to rest and I'm going to be and I'm going to reflect and I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to LA and love on my people and be with people who matter to me. That's what's most important to me in this season. And everything else will have to just be. So if you are someone who prays, I invite your prayers. If you just are someone who sends good vibes, warm thoughts, positive healing thoughts, I receive them. But I'm going to give myself the opportunity to release, to shed, to prune, to let go of anything and everything that just doesn't feel like it truly matters in this moment. I'm going to give myself permission to do that. And anything that I replace or put back will be in the way that it should be, in a way that I truly love and that truly feels good. In the spirit of embracing what I think these now 3 ancestors, angels, guides that are with me would tell me to do, it's definitely not to worry about things that I wouldn't be worried about on my deathbed. When we go and take that dirt nap, when we take our final breath, so many of the things that we consume our daily lives with won't really matter. They won't really matter. What will really matter is spending time with the people that we love the most. It'll be how we served others, how much laughter we experienced, how much joy we allowed into our lives, how much peace we kept when other people were trying to create chaos. There'll be so many other things that matter, but it won't be social media algorithms. It won't be Apple Podcast algorithms. It won't be any number of the things that we have consumed ourselves with. And even if it's just for this moment, I'm okay with tapping out and opting out. I've really been trying to practice putting things down and leaving them there. And I don't know about you, but it's so easy to get caught up in picking them back up. I've never experienced so much death back to back to back. And this is definitely, it's different. This is different for me. And I'm going to give myself an opportunity to be. So I pray that in a few weeks when the podcast returns, that you're here to pick back up. I will still do the things that I feel led to do when I feel led to do them in the Redefining Wealth app. But yeah, in this moment, I believe I'm complete. So until we talk again, I do want you to live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever chasing money. But I also want you to call the people that you keep meaning to call. I want you to stop and take the ride across town to visit, especially with some of the people who helped to raise you and make you who you are. The people who have had really meaningful and significant conversations with you. I pray that you stop and give them their flowers and tell them how much they mean to you now while you can. So live your life's purpose, but also make a part of your purpose, letting people know how much they've been a blessing to you while you still can. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.